Hello, and welcome to The Fuse and the Flint, where technology, innovation, and development intersect in exciting ways. I'm Agustin Sanchez, product designer here at 8thlight, and we're back again with Tosin, lead product manager at 8thlight, in Talking PLG. This is part 2 of our conversation. Be sure to check out the previous episode for our introduction to product-led growth. So Tosin, in the previous episode, you touched on leadership. I wonder how intentional should leaders be in implementing PLG? It seems like for some larger companies, this might be a really big shift, and building trust with the rest of the company might be a crucial step to transforming everything that they're doing.
I agree. And I think that even having the right understanding of what a culture shift means by leadership is important. I think that if we think about just society in general, cultures take centuries to change, right? Mm-hmm. It's not something that just happens overnight or with a new government or with a new mandate. That's not how cultures shift. Culture shifts with time. And I think it's the same in an organization where leadership have to, again, not just mandate the change and not just state the change, but they have to embody what they want to see. And then that then has a ripple effect or a domino effect, if you will, on the rest of the organization. And I think that leadership has to pilot what they want to see themselves first. So I would say that the leadership team should take this on as a project for any organization and pilot PLG mindset amongst themselves first, and then start to roll that out to their direct reports. And they subsequently roll that down to their direct reports. And that's how it kind of flows through the organization. But I think where it's just a vision, where it's a stated goal of, we're going to shift to a product-led mindset or product-led strategy, the question then becomes how, and what does that mean in the day-to-day of an IC engineer or a crafter or a product manager or a designer? What does that mean for their day-to-day? Or as opposed to when it's embodied, and it's a way of being, and people are seeing their leadership and their management pivot and be agile. It's not what you say, it's what you do. It has to start from the top down, and it has to be leadership understanding that they have to live up to what they're talking about. Otherwise, it's kind of futile and potentially counterproductive.
Yeah, well said. I really love that, like that idea of the proof's in the pudding. You have to walk the walk in order to lead.
Yeah.
And I think, looking at what PLG is, I think that some people might look at it and think, oh, okay, I want to be user-centered. I want to be design forward. Mm-hmm. Let's hire a bunch of product designers. Let's hire some researchers, and that'll fix the problem. Mm-hmm. But design thinking and having a user-centered focus can come from top down. It isn't just about hiring people beneath you to do a certain task. It's about reframing your mindset in how your business is going to move forward.
Exactly. Absolutely. And you can't fake that, right? Because you can hire the best designers in the world. And if the processes and structures aren't in place, they might just get very frustrated because it stifles them. And this is not just for design, right? This is across any software development pod. And so it's crucial that the leadership embodies what their strategy states.
And it's something that I hadn't even thought of, but in terms of retention and attracting talent, this is what all those talented, intelligent people that you want working for you are looking for. They're looking for a company that is using data and making meaningful decisions that help their customers to have a better experience. And there's a lot of pride that goes into, from the top down, all the way down to, somebody that's just pushing some pixels or writing some code. Having something that aligns the entire team, it makes you feel like the work that you're doing is meaningful and, appreciated.
Absolutely.
Is something that can keep you engaged, make you do the best work of your career, and retain you where you're not looking around and looking for another job because there's a lacking at your current job.
It's interesting because many times when you talk to leadership teams, when we hold a workshop around PLG and how to set them up for success, they're all looking kind of at efficiencies in terms of, we can automate our sales process. It's a shorter onboarding to to conversion pipeline. And it's kind of like they've got dollar signs in the eyes, which is fine because that's what PLG does ultimately.
Right.
But I think there are other ways of being more efficient. Turnover is a huge problem.
Yeah.
And I find that the places where people want to stay, if you think of any of the companies that are product-led, I think about Stripe, I think about Canva, Calendly. We think of any product that is product-led, and you find that people want to stay there. And it's not just about the perks or the pay, which is great, but it's also about doing valuable work that has an impact, a measurable impact that you can see and it's tangible. And that very often stems from the decisions and the strategic perspective that governs how that business is run or operated, or how projects are prioritized, how features are built and prioritized, how products are developed. And it's huge. It's a huge, huge factor in job satisfaction, I think.
Yeah, and if you take that job satisfaction and job retention, it has a direct impact on the product and its effect on the customer, right? So it's like this huge halo effect where, yes, you're retaining people. Yes, people are happier. They're doing better work, which means your customers are better supported, which means you make more money.
Absolutely. And PLG is about putting the user at the center. I like to think of an internal PLG where it's putting your employees at the center because they're the users. Put them at the center, right? And that immediately solves your staff acquisition, staff retention problems. Just apply PLG internally, I guess.
So I want to shift in terms of adopting PLG and its impact on business. What do you think are the key takeaways for any business leader?
Such a great question. I'm going to kind of answer it indirectly with a few points. I think that, first of all, we have to see PLG not just as a set of tactics, but actually as a paradigm and a mindset shift. I think it requires an organization to be fully committed to user-centered design. And that could mean ongoing experimentation and adaptability. But I think the commitment must be holistic, and it has to touch every part of the organization. So from how you develop and market the product itself to how you measure and define success. And I say measure success in that sometimes it's not always linear. Sometimes retention could be success. So it's just how do you define and measure success? And I think companies that succeed with PLG are those that embrace this as a long-term and sustainable strategy and not just a short-term growth hack. It has to be built into the DNA of an organization. The second point I'll make here is I think adopting PLG gives companies a durable competitive edge because it's rooted in the product and the user experience. It's not just fleeting trends. Some companies are constantly chasing trends. And I think a PLG approach can create a self-sustaining growth engine where your satisfied customers bring in more users. So it's that word of mouth referral system. And data-driven innovation keeps you ahead of your competitors naturally. And I think the agility inherent in PLG also means that you are better equipped to respond to market shifts. And that ensures then that your foundation remains growth-oriented and future-proof, which is what many companies are trying to drive to today, is how do we future-proof our space in the industry, in a constantly changing industry. I think those are the two core points I can make around that sustainable, scalable growth piece.
No, that's great. And of note, something that we should talk about, Tosin, is the PLG checklist that you and I worked on together. If you are a product owner or a business leader that's interested in checking your health and how ready you are with PLG, we've created a tool that actually lets you self-assess and understand where you sit in that context. It'll be linked in the show notes. But Tosin, can you talk a little bit about what the impact of that PLG checklist was and its intent?
Yeah, and just to mention, it was great collaborating with you and the broader stakeholder team to put that together. I think that every organization should just take it as a sort of self-diagnostic. I think it's just a great way to, first of all, flesh out any gaps one might have in their understanding of what comprises a healthy org? How are we even broken down by verticals, departments, and how are we thinking through what operational pieces we need for success? And I think that despite regardless of your maturity or size, so you could be a startup, you could be an enterprise level organization, there's something in the checklist that can be very relevant to you at wherever you are. And the thinking behind the product-led growth assessment readiness checklist, which is a bit of a mouthful, let's just say PLG checklist, was sort of a way for business unit owners or anyone interested in growth at an organization, creating a way for them to assess to see where they're healthy and where there are areas for opportunity. I think there's always opportunity, but let's start with where are we healthy and where do we kind of see these red flags? And it's a fairly short assessment. It gives you a high-level diagnostic showing, you need to lean in on your tech stack, or you need to lean in on your data and analytics. Or if you're a company who's building for future, considering that piece around future-proofing your business, let's say you've launched a startup in the US with the potential to grow to international markets. How are you thinking about internationalization and localization? How are you ensuring that your foundation is laid to sustain the growth you want to see? And so I think the assessment is, probably 15 minutes max. If you do all the steps, probably you can do it in 10 minutes. It just gives you an overall bill of health about where your organization is in terms of each individual vertical, and how Eighth-Light can help you kind of shore up those areas where there's room for growth and opportunity.
And as you put that together, as you go through the checklist, if you have any questions or want more insight into all things product, data, design, development, we're here at Eighth-Light. We're here to support you. We're here to support your next steps, whether it's through technology or design or product-centric thinking.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on The Fuse and the Flint. We hope today's conversation ignited your curiosity, inspiring you to think differently about technology and its capability to transform. Subscribe to stay updated on our latest episodes and visit us at eighthlight.com for more information. Until next time.